we're going to take a look at Article 2. We've already discussed Article 1, and we've also discussed very broadly the structure of Articles 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 being the three articles that provide the structure and foundation for the three branches. And I told you that this is important because we have all this authority and power, and the Constitution divvies that up. It separates and tethers one to another like rock, paper, scissors, right? The game. And that's sort of the separation of powers, division of power. And then also, as you've already come across this a little bit in Article 1, but there's also the separation or the distinct powers, the limitations on the federal government and then the state governments. We will see that throughout as well. So we're looking at Article 2, and we have some parallel structure. Section 1 of Article 1, Section 1 of Article 2, and Section 1 of Article 3 all do the same thing. They perform the same function. They outline where the power vests. So in this case, you'll see that the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. Now you'll notice what's missing here. It doesn't say all power is herein granted. It just says the executive power. Executive power. So this is a very pregnant sentence. It does a lot of work. There is no limitation to the powers granted herein, at least not by the language. So the first section gives sort of the qualifications, what else you might need to consider in becoming president. We'll scroll down here, and obviously you're going to read through this, but look here at Section 1.5 here. No person except a natural-born citizen can be president. Now, certainly there was a second part back in the day. If you were alive at the time the Constitution was adopted and you were a citizen, you got a free pass. But obviously that time has come to an end. So the only sort of triggering mechanism here is the first. That is, no person except a natural-born citizen. So you have to be a naturally born citizen to be president of the United States. You also have to be 35, and you have to have been a resident within the United States for 14 years. So there's much there. We have additional sort of rules and what happens at removal or death, resignation. Although we don't, if you look over here, so this is what happens in the case of removal, and then this is how you remove them over here, Section 4. So its own section, and it's very, very short. But still, in Section 1, this is what the oath looks like. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the people of the United States. Actually, it doesn't say that, right? It says I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what he or she is swearing to. I find that interesting. So Section 2, Commander-in-Chief duties. And the president shall be the commander-in-chief. Now, you know that Congress gets to declare war, but the president is the commander-in-chief. And notice we have a political commander-in-chief. Someone who is elected by the people is in charge of the military. Also, we've already seen this in Marbury versus Madison, but the appointment of judges, right? In addition to making treaties with the advice and consent of the senators, we have the appointment power. It's ambassadors, public ministers, consuls, and important to us is the judges of the Supreme Court. The president shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next section. This is just helpful. Like, how do you keep a government running if there's a vacancy? Well, there's a way to do that. We have the from time to time language here in Section 3, which is important, but really this is key. What I'm highlighting right here. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. So he shall take care the laws be faithfully executed. He doesn't make the laws, or she. He is to execute them. He is to take care to see, he is to oversee, to supervise to make sure that the laws be faithfully executed. So this is an important part of the separation of powers. And then finally, this is how you get rid of a president. Outside of voting someone else in, if you want to remove them during the term that is either the vice president or president, it's on impeachment. And you've already read about that, who gets to start it, House, and for what. Now, finally, I don't know what other high crimes and misdemeanors means. Sort of know what treason means, sort of know what bribery means, but high crimes and misdemeanors is as yet undefined. And it certainly doesn't mean the word misdemeanor like we use the term misdemeanor in Texas penal code provisions, because misdemeanors are actually relegated to the less serious offenses. So obviously there are some Class A misdemeanors that are pretty serious. Family assault, perhaps, or driving while intoxicated, your second time. There's some others as well, but a Class C misdemeanor is a traffic ticket. In Texas, it's a fine only. So misdemeanors are Class A, B, and C, and they're typically less serious. In fact, they limit jail time to a year, whereas the more serious offenses are felonies. So interesting. If you're interested in it, like, what could this mean? There's plenty to read about. Law review articles abound. Lots of commentary on this, but it's interesting that it's not defined. But certainly, whatever it means, it's very serious and not meant to be a very low bar, but a very high bar. So going back, remember, as you read through this, I strongly encourage you to outline it. Small little stretches of text are very important in the Constitution, and I want you to make sure to focus on each word and the sentences, see what they might mean. And then if you make an outline, you will have a ready roadmap for understanding what the Supreme Court cases you'll be reading are actually referring to. So when you hear Article 2, of course, you should think about the executive power. Now, I'm going to interject something. Article 1, I know that's Congress. I just know it is Congress because the Constitution starts with Congress. Article 2, I always think of the Roman numerals like this, and that the executive branch has a president and vice president. So there's two of them. And then when I think of the judiciary, Article 3, I think of Court of Appeals justices. So generally, in Texas, the panel of justices to whom you aim your arguments, there is a panel of 3. Now, certainly, you can have an en banc hearing or argument with sort of all of them, but typically you have a panel of 3 justices. And so in my mind, when I was in law school, that's how I just knew. When you said Article 3, I immediately saw 3 I's for the Roman numeral and said, well, that's the justices, that's courts, judiciary, got it. And then when I thought of Article 2, I thought of the president and the vice president. So there's 2 of them. And then I knew that Article 1 was Congress. It's the number 1 most important branch. So that may not seem like an extraordinarily sophisticated way to think about these things, but it's easy to slip up. And when someone says Article 2, you might forget there's lots of articles, but the first 3 branches of government, Article 1, 2, and 3, you should get familiar with them. And that's just one trick that I used when I was in law school to make sure I didn't say the wrong thing in front of very smart people. So you're looking at Article 2, keep in mind what is there, and also keep in mind what you don't see after reading through Article 1.